Welcome to another episode of the Backroads Bill podcast. I'm Ben, and joined, as always, by the man of the hour, Mr. Backroads Bill. Bill, how are you?
I'm really good, and we're going to delve into the world of local artists, actually.
Yeah, so you're a fairly well-known person, Bill, right? You've done your stories for many years. And this week, we're going to be delving into a tale of a well-known Canadian wildlife artist that got his inspiration from none other than you, Mr. Backroads Bill.
Yeah, it was an honor that Clermont Duval created an original painting of the eagles and the wolves, and presented it not only to me but to the world, I guess, because he is a well-known artist, and we're going to delve into a bit of Clermont's background. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about how that all came about.
So, Bill, as you said, you inspired a painting that Clermont Duval painted. It featured some wolves, some eagles. It was inspired by some of the photos you took during, I believe that was during COVID. So there's a lot to unpack in this story.
Yeah.
So for the listeners and viewers, let's just begin at the very beginning with, who is Clermont Duval?
Clermont Duval is a French-Canadian artist, well known. I should take us back a little bit to the classic French-Canadian novel, Maria Chapdelaine. And the story is well known in Quebec and elsewhere, of a young girl who has different suitors. But fast forward, Clermont, one of his first graphic novels was about Maria Chapdelaine, where he painted all the storyboards. And this is well known, and they're in a museum in the Louis Himont Museum in Peribonka, Quebec. And Louis Himont was the author of Maria Chapdelaine. So anyway, and then Clermont, who has a gallery in Mattawa, also, and has been a wildlife and outdoors painter for years and years, and is well known. His work is circulated around the world. He's one of the first ones actually to put fingerprints on his paintings so they can be identified correctly as originals. And
so wait, so he put let's pump the brakes a little bit here. So he used his fingerprint. So could people actually like scan the fingerprint and see that it was that's amazing. And do people do that still, or was that a signature of his?
We've talked about Norval Morisseau and the fakes and things, and of course painters, their intellectual property. How do you prove something is an original or one of a limited set of prints? And so, yes, Clermont was one of the first to use fingerprint identification to do that. So that's that's kind of a sidebar story.
Wow. Like, I wonder, I'm just curious how back, because this was, what year was this? This was around, this was in the 70s, right? Like, this was 60s.
I don't know when Clermont started with the using the fingerprints, but he's been painting for a long, long time. So, and has countless originals. He's a vivid, an active painter, and of course he has a lot of stories in his paintings, or have stories connected, a series of paintings. Another one he's famous for is the Little Red Canoe, and is also famous for all these natural landscapes in and around the area on the Mattawa River, Ottawa River, and so well known for that. So that kind of leads me, how did this all start? Well, during COVID, when we were told to stay inside, there'd be peaks and troughs when we could go outside, but nonetheless, Backroads Bill, the founder of the Canadian Ecology Centre, had to stay within Samuel de Champlain Provincial Park. I'm smiling right now because I had everything shut down, so someone had to look after the Canadian Ecology Centre, so I did, and there was no one around. The park got closed that particular year. The first year, as we know, parks and things didn't open till late June because we were told inside. Then we were told to get outside. And so then, of course, we transitioned to the whole thing about cohorts and masking and the like. Then eventually, well, it's also during that time when I started to write a poem a day. Could be another story, Ben. A poem a day for 411 consecutive days in a row. Wow. But nonetheless, I would go outside all the time, and I was by myself.
COVID must have been so easy for you.
Well, yeah,
because everybody's
that's why I
complaining that
laugh.
like, we're
Like,
stuck inside, and you're like, I was out in nature the whole time.
The whole time it was such an opportunity. Life presents those opportunities, so we should take them, even though other people didn't have that same kind of liberty that I had. But so I started taking photos, and I have trail cameras. I have really good high definition trail cameras. So I started to set them up because I wanted to. Animals are very active at night, and I would get lots and lots of wolf pictures and those kinds of things, fox and martins and stuff. And then I started concentrating on getting day pictures, and I would purposely drag deer kills on the Mattawa River, which is mostly frozen, and the wolves are coming across from the north side. The deer in the park because of deer stands. Hemlock trees and where they browse and protection from the sun. Anyway, I would set these up, and I started capturing these daytime photos of golden eagles, bald eagles, the wolves, and it was just amazing what the kind of pictures I say, kind of like National Geographic, Canadian Geographic.
I was going to say, are they going to call up and
I don't know,
use your work or what?
I don't know. It's but then Clermont, a follower of mine on Facebook, unknown to me, he took all those images and painted this original of painting. So not only I was honored with that, but it really did capture the essence of the Mattawa River in that particular time. So
again, a lot to unpack in this story. Clermont, I just wanted to quickly touch on this. One of the major things that happened, and this was in the one article you did, is he almost died in 1973.
Yeah, he had
a very serious accident.
A boating accident, and recovered from that. And I guess he made this vow to himself he was going to be do what he wanted to do and followed his path as a painter, a prolific painter.
That's amazing how just one moment can change the trajectory of not just your life, but all the people who've enjoyed his stuff. And he's been very inspirational for people as well. Like his all over the world, his works have been shown in Europe, obviously here, and it's all been inspired and taken by in Northern Ontario, right?
Absolutely, particularly the Ottawa and Mattawa rivers and that area where he frequents, and as a person's lived there almost entirely his whole life.
Yeah, because you look at National Geographic and you think of the Africa photos and those kind of exotic photos. The one thing I've noticed is that Northern Ontario specifically has a lot of artists that have been inspired, whether it's landscape or wildlife or whatever. Even with the bald eagles, I had no idea we had eagles here.
Oh, well, there you go. Golden eagles, bald eagles, and again, that one shot where the two of them are at each other, just phenomenal.
And so you took some photos of wolves. I mistakenly thought it was with a wolf trainer, but you did some work with a gentleman who was, I guess, a wolf guru of sorts, wrote a book about it.
Yeah, Wolf Country is the name of the book by Dr. John and Mary Therese from the University of Waterloo. Had the good fortune of working with them some years ago, so I learned a lot about wolf behavior. And so I've always been enamored with that, and I've always tracked wolves, and that was part of my volunteer position when they gathered data in Algonquin Park about moose density studies and wolf tracks, trying to find the packs. His whole premise was to try to prove that the red wolf was a subspecies, and that's all in the book Wolf Country. Anyway, I know a lot about wolves, and so.
But you can't train them yet.
Yeah,
that's.
I don't think wolves can be trained, but no, and so again, when you capture them, I always say, and of course, when you howl. Outside, and I howl all the time. When you have a response, I often say it's better than TV. And of course, nature provides for that.
So you mentioned that you used a deer carcass to kind of lure them out. So what's it like trying to get photographs of nature? Because I feel like it's got to be a lot of waiting around for something to happen. Like with the wolves specifically, how long were you sitting there waiting to get some of these photos?
Well, again, I would sit for a long time with my my good cameras, but that doesn't necessarily work. It's those trail cameras that you set up, and the question was how. The first thing, you have to behave like an animal and understand that animals, mostly certainly wolves, take the edge effect, and they'll go along the edge of the river. I mean, they know also where there's open water. They don't want to go in because they don't want any slush on their forepaws, because then they're not so mobile. So putting the cameras in certain places to try to capture them. And again, if there was a deer kill, I would drag it kind of in place near the cameras, thinking what approach are they going to come from, and those kinds of things. And again, in this podcast, you'll see the photos of that, and you'll say, "What?" And so getting those photos during the day was the key, because you can get nocturnal photos all the time. It's just not the same.
And so Duval takes these. Does he contact you first and say, "Hey, like, how does that go?" Or did you just see the painting after and say, "Wait, those are my photos"?
Yeah, well, they were posted in stories and on social media, and then he did contact me, and I had no idea. And then eventually, I went into the gallery and got to see this after it was released for quite some time. And there's a picture of Clermont and myself there admiring this. And so, yeah, it was amazing what he did when he took those photos. And other artists have used my photos too of different landscapes captured, digitally. So what he did was, and knowing his reputation, it was certainly more than an honor.
And he's done a lot of stuff with wildlife, obviously, in the past, that being his kind of main inspiration. So in 1990, he actually began his Children and Wildlife series, which is kind of interesting because he's not just painting, but he's also kind of writing as well.
Yeah, no, again, he's kind of a story artist, we'll call him, storyboard artist, I guess, and it creates all kinds of stories with them sequentially. So that's really kind of another aspect of Clermont Duval and how he paints. He also does paintings where there's secret paintings in behind them.
Wait, what?
Yeah, secret. You have to shine a light at a certain angle, and in behind there'll be a totally different image.
No way.
Yeah, you got to go to the gallery and
where
see
is this gallery?
Yeah, the gallery's in the main street in Mattawa.
Wow.
Check it out. You just go Google Clermont Duval, Duval, and it'll come right up. And yeah, it's a must see and do. And again, people that travel, whether we live in the north or travel into Northern Ontario, whether it's a digital photo or a painting, that's a great keepsake. And then one thing Backroads Bill likes to do is I really like to geo-reference historic photos or paintings. And so if I can stand in the same spot where the photographer or the painter sketched or painted, I think it's a big thrill because you can see exactly where they are.
Let's talk about the painting specifically that your photos inspired. So it's called The Gold, the Silver, and the Gray, and it's a 54 by 28 painting on canvas wrap. Let's just talk about the painting a little bit. I'll put it up for the viewers, but for the listeners at home, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as, again, the compilation, I guess, of the different photos that I had taken, and he kind of put them into position to. I don't know exactly what he was. You have to ask the artist about this, but it's a representation of obviously the wild and the winter and the ice. And that they're there, and we don't always see them. And so in a painting, we do see them. So he took something that was captured kind of secretly and brought them to life. Well,
if Clermont Duval is listening, and you want to let us know the answer to that question, that would be fantastic. So. So, Bill, another thing, so we were talking about the fingerprint stuff. So one of the thing was, it was called the Admirable Violent, was that first one to be reproduced as a limited edition print where each one was numbered and signed with the fingerprint. That's absolutely astonishing, and that's something that he still does to this day.
Absolutely. Many other artists do that as well. It's an interesting process, and it protects their intellectual property.
All right, so as we kind of wind down here, what does it mean, and you touched on it a little bit, but what does it mean for you to have been the inspiration for such a talented member of such a talented member of the art community?
I guess, most people when they're bestowed an honor upon you're humbled and you're honored, and you say thank you, and you just all Backroads Bill does is share his love of the great outdoors and nature through stories and photos, whether it's on social media or in digital media form. And so it's just a way to say, wow, that actually really happened. And so, yes, it's and I look at it and I think, yeah, that's what happened out there. And then, of course, I also think about times falling through the ice and setting up those cameras and going taking some risk and actually thinking about the mitigation. So, but just being out with nature and those particular moments are fond memories.
Yeah, and the whole ice thing is another story. You told us that one day after we finished recording, and that was, I'm sure that'll be a story at some point. But so again, one last time for those who missed it, if you want to go see some of these Duval paintings, you can find it where?
Yeah, you can go online and Google Clermont Duval, but the gallery is on Main Street in Mattawa and highly recommended, whether it's during the week or on a Sunday drive, or call them up and get a private showing and think about purchasing a print.
Thank you, Bill, so much for joining me. Of course, you can find more episodes of Backroads Bill every Wednesday in audio form on all your popular podcast players like Apple, Google, and Spotify. And if you want to watch the video version, you can head on over to NorthBayEcho.ca. And while you're there, you can also check out some of the other local podcasts that we do, like To North Bay with Love, or other local creators like Small Town Times and The Frontline. So, Bill, before we leave, what are the last words you got for us?
I used to be a wolf, but I'm all right now.